Coming up on Newswatch in Focus, we'll talk to Charleston water officials about the outlook for the city's water supply. Some areas are beginning to administer restrictions due to drought conditions, but what about Charleston? And we'll take a look at what made local headlines this week on WEIU Newswatch. All that and more is coming up, so stay tuned. Newswatch in Focus starts now. Welcome and thanks for joining us for Newswatch in Focus. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant. Newswatch in Focus takes an in-depth look at the latest news stories from the greater Mattoon and Charleston area, as well as those surrounding it each week. Our topic this week is water restrictions during the drought. Several areas have begun to administer them, either in a voluntary basis or on a required basis. But Charleston hasn't been one of those areas yet. We'll find out why when we talk to our in-studio guest in a few minutes, but first, let's take a look at what made headlines this week on WEIU Newswatch. A 19-year-old from Effingham died in an ATV accident earlier this week. Effingham County Sheriff John Monette says Jesse Kinkler was riding a four-wheeler with another teen at 2000 Avenue near 1150th Street Sunday when for some reason ran into another ATV driven by 19-year-old Mark Mathis. Monette says Kinkler was thrown from the vehicle and died from traumatic brain injuries the next morning. Authorities say 3 other teens involved in the crash were hospitalized. Sheriff Monette says no one was wearing a helmet. And a Mattoon woman has died after being hit by a car. Tuesday night, Mattoon police say they found 58-year-old Sue O'Day unresponsive on the 25 block of Marshall in Mattoon. Police say 53-year-old James Warner of Gaze was on the scene and is said to be the driver of the car that hit O'Day as she was walking. O'Day died shortly after she was rushed to the Sarah Bush Lincoln Health Center emergency room. The investigation continues. A Central Illinois man will spend the next 14 years in prison after he was convicted of driving under the influence for the 6th time. 42-year-old Jeffrey Allen of Monticello pleaded guilty Tuesday to aggravated DUI. Officials say Allen's blood alcohol content was 0.19% when he drove a van into a creek in southwest Champaign County on May 2nd. Allen has 3 prior convictions for DUI and 2 for aggravated DUI. The Shelbyville City Council has approved a change in their city liquor ordinance, which now allows placement of Las Vegas-style gaming machines in bars and clubs. State guidelines call for 35% of the revenue to go to the gaming supplier, 30% to the state for taxes, and 35% to the place where the gaming machines are located. And a new era of Laker baseball is underway. Lakeland College has recently hired Bill Johnson as their new head baseball coach 4 months after Coach Tony Simons resigned. Coach Johnson was assistant at Graceland College before coming to Lakeland. Not only will Coach Johnson put in work on the diamond, he will also serve as a learning skills specialist in Lakeland College's TRIO program for low-income, first-generation, and disabled students. Mattoon's willingness to support the team and the culture of East Central Illinois were major factors in his decision to accept the job at Lakeland. And the heat is taking a toll on livestock this year, especially at county fairs. Newswatch's Kristen Leone was at the Shelby County Fair earlier this week and has more on that story.
Today at the Shelby County Fairgrounds, I met an 8-year-old 4-H member who told me heat stress and dehydration took the life of her family pig at last year's county fair.
He was really stressy because we moved him into the new barn and he spazzed out on us.
At first, this family didn't realize their family pig was showing signs of heat stress. And it was the heat stress that ended the life of their crossbred swine at last year's Shelby County 4-H fair.
First we just took the hose and we sprayed it off, and they had to carry him to the pen and we threw ice on him, and that probably put him into shock.
Bergner says their beloved pig was one of their most prized possessions. This year's fair has been difficult. The family says the surroundings bring back lots of memories. The one that still haunts them, the animal panting for its last breath.
He just flipped out on us, completely and utterly flipped out.
So when temperatures are this hot, the Bergners are a bit on edge. This year, they can't keep enough water on their lovable entry, named Toby.
Get their genetics, and on spots it's got a percentage next to them, and they're either stress positive or stress negative.
And hose them off with a hose and soap them up, clean them up, and just keep them cool.
Now, Matt Bergner says he continues to teach his daughter how to properly care for the pigs when temperatures are this high. And although this experience was hard for their family, he says he couldn't be more proud of his little girl and the pigs they've raised together.
This is a lot of responsibility. They got to do all the work. The parents got to help them some. But as the kids get older, a lot of these kids, they do all of it.
Breeders and those showing animals at the fair recommend checking on them often and making sure they're hydrated to avoid heat-related illnesses. And drought conditions prompted Illinois Governor Pat Quinn to travel to southern Illinois this week to announce state assistance available to farmers and residents in the drought-impacted areas. The announcement came after Quinn met with farmers about crop damage resulting from persistent drought conditions. Quinn called on the U.S. Department of Agriculture to grant a disaster designation to a total of 33 Illinois counties, including Clark, Jasper, and Crawford counties in our area. Kristen Leone is back with more.
Right now, the government has declared 33 counties as being in a drought disaster. And now farmers are desperate and are turning to their insurance providers for some relief before their yields completely dry out.
Yeah, I've had a $10,000 or $12,000 claim, here and there, whatever. But my claim this year is probably going to be over $1 million.
It allows producers to get a guarantee based on their yields of up to 80 to 85% of what they normally would produce.
Farm Credit Services Division Representative Gary Kopp says the corn crop hasn't seen a severe drought like this since the 1950s. And for some farmers like Donnie Deeker, concern for his cornfield is growing now more than ever.
I mean, even if the rains came right now, an inch a week, it's not going to make any difference in the corn. Soybeans have a chance, but the corn, you get a window in there for about 2 weeks around pollination. It's everything, and you just hit it wrong this year.
And having crop insurance guarantees that a percentage of yield that farmers pay for will be covered when there's a corn crop crisis like this one.
You've never had a drought like this. It's just like insuring your home. You wouldn't think about not insuring your home, so you need to insure your crops so that you can, be able to withstand a drought like this.
So that's very important because there's a lot of dollars involved here, and if producers can't raise this crop, and if they don't have insurance, it will be very, very difficult for them to continue farming.
Although 80% of farmers are insured in Illinois, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is providing emergency support relief, similar to risk management, to aid all farmers eligible in this drought disaster.
Being Clark County has been declared a drought area, and there's some funds that are being made available to farmers to help off low-cost loans.
In addition to USDA relief, Governor Quinn announced the Illinois Finance Authority will partner with local banks to activate 4 state programs to help farmers. And while many farmers are fearing for their yields, others are concerned about the closure of a farm lab. Governor Pat Quinn announced the closure of the Centralia Animal Disease Laboratory in Clinton County August 31st. With this dry weather, farmers in Clark County say high levels of toxins in chopped corn can be dangerous and deadly to their feed, which would affect their livestock and livelihood.
With the drought and all the extenuating circumstances going on right now, that could be very untimely for many of the producers that use that lab for testing.
The aflatoxin is at some level, it's just not a suitable feed for livestock.
Both farming officials say the state has financial difficulties and is looking to close more programs. Yet they don't understand why the governor would close this lab in the middle of a severe drought when toxin levels are increasingly high in crops, especially corn. And finally tonight, the drought is beginning to affect water supplies. Here in Coles County, one town is doing all it can to keep their water unrestricted, while others are watching their spouts go dry. We'll talk to Charleston water officials more about this next, but first, Newswatch's Amanda Richardson has the story.
Since the drought, Mattoon's water supply has gone down a foot. Now that may seem like a lot, but right now city officials say it's not enough to force residents to limit their water use. However, they say that could change if this severe drought continues.
We don't have any cause for alarm at this particular moment as far as water restrictions go, and we haven't planned any.
And that's because the city of Mattoon has a unique system to keep the water flowing.
We pump water from Lake Mattoon into Lake Paradise, and then we draw out of Lake Paradise to treat water and send it to the town.
Due to the dry conditions, the city is forced to pump water into Lake Paradise constantly. And while that means there's ample supply for the city, Lake Mattoon is down 1.5 feet.
Well, the big concern at Lake Mattoon is it's a recreational facility of ours, and so as the water level drops, it diminishes the amount of activities that people are able to enjoy, like boating and skiing.
Now, just down the road, some Mattoon residents who use Clearwater service aren't so lucky. That company has issued a voluntary water restriction.
Across the back, there's a row of arborvitaes. We're losing about 4 or 5 of those that we quit watering them to comply with this letter.
And the situation is similar outside of Coles County. The city of Decatur has also issued a voluntary water restriction because Lake Decatur is losing more than a ½ inch of water a day. City officials say a mandatory restriction would be put in place if lake levels decline another 9 inches. But those closest to the restrictions are hoping they'll be able to turn on the water soon as they watch their plants and grass die.
Glad when it's lifted. I'll be glad when we get lakes filled back up and we get plenty of water and we can lift this ban.
I spoke with several other communities throughout the area who told me despite the drought, they're not worried about their water supplies. And that's good news for many, including Eastern Illinois University.
Wonder where we get our story inspirations from? Make sure to tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30 right here on WEIU to find out. Newswatch in Focus takes a local story from the week that was featured on Newswatch and goes more in depth. For more local news, weather, and sports, tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30. We're back with Bill Bosler, the superintendent of Charleston's water treatment plant, and thanks for joining me today, Bill. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
And can you first tell the people at home what your job entails and how long you've been with the city?
I am the superintendent of the water treatment plant, so I am in charge of all daily operations of making sure that you have water at your faucet. I started working with the city back in 1986 at the water treatment plant. I've been, the last 26 years, I've stayed right at the water treatment plant. I started out in the maintenance department there and as an operator, and just kind of as the years went through, worked my way up. And when about 9 or 10 years ago, the superintendent's position came open, and I took over as superintendent.
Okay, so you're familiar with the water processes here, to say the least.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so can you tell me first, this is a drought, you know, it's what people are talking about. So what does the situation look like for Charleston? Because I know it's a little bit different here.
We are in excellent shape. We're in excellent shape for the circumstances that the other municipalities are facing. Fortunately, we have a side channel reservoir that which was constructed back in the late 70s and early 80s. Somebody back in the 70s on the council and stuff was really looking out for the city. It works out great for us that we're able to pull water from the Ambraw River and pump it into the Charleston Side Channel Reservoir, which is where we take the water out to supply water for the community.
Okay.
We have approximately 350 acre reservoir with an average depth of about 9 feet. So we're in great shape. Right now we are at normal pool, we're at normal operations. We could use some rain.
Right, as could everybody.
As
right.
could everybody. One of the things that would benefit us the most is, as everybody in Charleston could use the rain for their yards and everything, but we would benefit rain that would happen north of us, anywhere from here to Champaign.
Okay.
Because that is where the Ambraw River would benefit the most,
okay.
is upstream of us.
Because then that feeds down here.
Then that feeds down to us, to the pump. So I mean, if we was to get a pile of rain right here in Charleston and nothing north of us, it wouldn't benefit us near like it would if Villa Grove, Camargo area would get saturated. I mean, that's where it would really benefit us.
Okay.
So, but it's not typical for your municipalities at this point in time with the weather conditions that we're having to be in great shape with their water supply.
Right.
So we're very fortunate to have the situation that we have here in Charleston.
Okay. And so, you know, obviously since we're kind of normal, what does it mean for your department? All things go as usual?
We're just on a daily routine that we normally are on. The only thing that we are doing probably a little over and beyond is monitoring the quality of the water in the river and how much water we have in the river from here to Champaign. We've kept a little bit closer eye on that than normal. We've pumped just a little bit more than normal just to keep our reservoir at normal. So if this does continue for several months, that we're going to be in the best possible shape that we can be in.
Okay. So you said, kind of going along typically. What is a typical day like at the water treatment plant? What do you guys do?
Our water treatment plant is manned 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We have somebody there at all times. It never shuts off. We are setting in a new plant, considerably new. It's been in operation for about 6 years now. State-of-the-art plant for water treatment plants. We are an ozone plant, which increases the quality of the water tremendously, where our taste and odor problems are virtually nil.
No more, yeah.
No more. So, but on a daily routine, we pump approximately 1.6 to 1.9 million gallons a day to the residents.
Okay.
So it's just bringing in the water from the reservoir and getting it cleaned up and meeting all state and federal regulations and shipping it out.
Okay. So, and you said you've maybe pumped a little more, but it's not.
It's a little bit more. It's a little above average. Not to speak a lot.
Do you think that's maybe due to use from residents? I mean, are they maybe watering plants a little more?
There's a few people that are still trying to keep their yards green.
Good luck to those people, I say. It's getting pretty hard now.
It's getting pretty hard now.
Yeah. So can you kind of tell us how the water supply, you kind of went over this, but can you tell us, kind of directly how the water supply works for us around here?
We'll start out with the Amberall River and stuff and the levels there, and if we have the quality and the quantity of water to pump over into our reservoir, it starts right there. We'll bring that over into the reservoir. If at times we'll have to shut the pumps off and we can't pump from the river due to the quantity and quality, then we just rely strictly on our reservoir. Okay. There is some underground springs in our reservoir that help feed it. We have a limited amount of runoff in our area that that actually makes it to our reservoir, which is good and bad.
Right.
It's bad that we don't have the watershed area that would fill it up quicker, but it's really good that it makes the quality of water in our reservoir so much better. We don't get the runoff, we don't get the ag fields and stuff like that. So once it gets to the reservoir, then it's up to the water treatment plant for normal treatment.
Okay. So say it didn't rain ever for a really long time. Do we have enough water in there to supply us for a long time? I assume we would. You said we're at normal pool.
We're at normal pool. We have an adequate amount of water there for the City of Charleston. There was in 1996, there was a drought yield study done for the Charleston Side Channel Reservoir, and it was prepared by the Illinois State Water Survey. They basically give us all of the calculations of the volumes of water, and with taking out the evaporation factors, the factors of rainfall going into it, we have a adequate amount of water for Charleston. It's going to be a situation to where we're not looking into any type of restrictions.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of my next question. So it would take a lot around here to get into a restriction.
The world's going to be in a lot worse predicament if we don't get any rain than worrying about worrying about water in Charleston, Illinois.
Right. Okay.
I can put it that way.
Okay. So since we probably aren't going to face a restriction, but there are areas that are facing restrictions right now. So from the water department's point of view, what does that mean? I mean, what are these people facing?
There's two types of restrictions in the water industry. Most places will start out with a voluntary restriction. They'll either notify their customers. There is a few water districts in the area right now that have already done this. What that basically asks you to do is stop washing your cars, stop watering your gardens, watering your lawns. Just use water that has to be used on a daily basis to get you through your normal operations. So I mean, when you ask for a voluntary water deal like that, that's basically what you're asking for, and that's what you get. Then if you go to an actual water restricted state, now you're going to go out and probably actually close your car washes in town. You're going to put restrictions on the actual people that if they are caught watering their lawns and stuff like that, they'll face probably some type of a city ordinance fine or something like that. So that's the second stage when it really gets down to that. But fortunately, I mean, in the 26 years I've been there, and in the history that I know of Charleston, we've never been on a restriction, so we've never experienced it.
Right. Well, we're not an aquifer sourced water place, or we don't run off of lakes that aren't filled with rivers or things like that. So sounds like we're pretty lucky around
It
here.
is. It's a very unique situation. Charleston is in a very unique situation, and like you say, you get a little farther north and you get into the Muhammad Aquifer and stuff like that, and those people don't have to worry about it either. But there is several communities around that are starting to have to take some precautions. Yes.
And what kinds of things, in that situation, can people even do inside their normal routine to maybe help?
Common sense. I mean, it comes down to a lot of common sense. Basic. We all can shorten our showers up. I mean, we all know that we take a lot longer showers than we need to. So I mean, it gets down to if you just kind of watch that and get in and get soaped up and get out. I mean, and then when you in the bathroom when you're brushing your teeth and stuff, get the water shut off in between. When you're shaving, get the water shut off in between. Laundry. I mean, limit your laundry to the bare necessities of what you need to get cleaned. Washing dishes, make sure your dishwasher is completely full when you run it. Hold off an extra day. I mean, it just kind of boils down to a little bit of common sense and
making a conscientious effort.
Making an effort. That's the problem that I think that we have is the people have never run out of water.
Right.
In
Something
our area.
We kind of take for granted.
We take it for granted that it's always going to be there. We're going to turn the faucet on and it's going to be there. So we don't conserve like we should. And if we just would do a little bit more of that, I think it would make a drastic improvement.
So kind of to recap, in Charleston, we're all right. We've said that. And so there's been no letters or anything like that go out to residents or anything like that, and we're not concerned at this point.
No, we've not mentioned the first thing about limiting water to people. If you want to water your lawn this afternoon, pull the sprinkler out and go.
Well, that's good to know, and it's nice to know, that we're in such a situation like that. So is there anything else that you think Charleston residents or the area residents here need to know in regards to water at this point?
Right now, we're just pushing right along. Everything's going good. People are continuing to fill their swimming pools when they need it. I mean, the evaporation rate is working on swimming pools around and stuff.
I bet.
Our industries industries that we've got are still going strong, and so no, we're in a very fortunate state and keep using water.
Yeah. So do you think people, though, you might find some people be surprised about their water bills since they're not used to watering this much?
It's going to raise them up a little bit as it goes along. But I mean, that's just
again common sense. Right?
Common sense. If you use it, you're going to pay for it. So if you don't, then you won't.
Well, Bill, we thank you for coming to Newswatch in Focus today and for bringing the Charleston water situation as well as kind of the surrounding area into focus for us. So that's all the time we have for today, but we hope you'll stay tuned next for the Four Rivers Ag Report with Fred Peralta. As for now, I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and thanks for watching Newswatch in Focus. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Newswatch in Focus. Is there a news story happening in your community? Let us know about it. You can email our newsroom at news@weiu.net. Call us at 581-2911 or write to us at 600 Lincoln Avenue, Charleston, Illinois 61920. Your story could be featured on Newswatch or right here on this show, Newswatch in Focus. For more news all the time, visit our website at WEIU.net. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Newswatch in Focus. Did you know full episodes of our show are available on YouTube? Go to www.youtube.com/WEIU-TV and click on the Newswatch in Focus playlist. Each week we'll put a new episode of Newswatch in Focus online. For more information and news, visit our website at WEIU.net 24 hours a day. Wonder where we get our story inspirations from? Make sure to tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30 right here on WEIU to find out. Newswatch in Focus takes a local story from the week that was featured on Newswatch and goes more in depth. For more local news, weather, and sports, tune in to Newswatch every weeknight at 5:30.